What is oral history? Oral history has two parts. The first is about recording someone's experiences. The second is about studying what was recorded. While students do occasionally speak with a veteran's family as part of this project, it's relatively rare. If you find yourself setting up an interview with someone about your biography, be sure to talk to your teacher first about the best way to do it. For this video, we're going to focus on the second part of oral histories, studying the recorded oral recollections of people who experienced the history you're investigating. These recollections usually take the form of an interview that can be viewed or listened to as a resource, though sometimes you might read a transcript instead of watching the original footage or listening to the original tape. Why consider using an oral history in your research? Oral histories can bring context and perspective to the written documents you've found, which can often be a little boring on their own. Oral histories can showcase emotion, social habits, and personal details that might not show up in, for example, a military discharge form. How did our veterans feel serving in foreign lands? What did they and their comrades do in camp when they had downtime? These details simply don't show up in formal military documents. But take care to remember that all people being interviewed are human beings. That means they have a story to tell, but their memories are only one perspective. Don't assume that just one oral history interview tells the whole story. Plus, memories can change over time as a veteran reflects or learns new things that change how they view their own experience. Let's examine a past biography for how oral history can really bring a text to life. The students who wrote the biography of World War II Navy veteran Harold Fawcett used more than one oral history, and in interesting ways. Like any good historical writing, those sources are listed in their bibliography. Let's take a look at the interview with Harry F. Brooks by clicking on this link. The link to Harry Brooks's oral history interview takes us to the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library's Veterans History Project page. Oral histories collected here are made possible through the Library of Congress, but are gathered together because they cover veterans from the Cincinnati and Hamilton County area. We'll come back to the Library of Congress in just a bit. First, let's take a look at the interview with Harry Brooks. Materials here are sorted by conflict or era. Because we know that our West Virginia veteran, Harold Fawcett, served during World War II, we can anticipate that Harry Brooks was also in that conflict. A YouTube video interview is available, but first let's look at some of the information gathered by the oral historian who conducted this interview. Under the object description, there's important information about Harry Brooks. He served in the U.S. Navy from 1942 to 1945 and was involved in World War II, as we suspected. Here is his unit, the locations he served while he was in the Navy, and awards he received. Since you may not have read the Harold Fawcett biography, just know that this unit, Fleet Air Photographic Squadron 1, is the common thread between Brooks and Harold Fawcett. Watching this interview with Brooks may tell us more about the unit that Fawcett served in. There are also important pieces of personal information on this page, including the names of his parents, what neighborhood he lived in, and what school he attended. These are important biographical tools that might help you with other types of research, so make sure to note these if you run across them with any of your veterans. But for now, let's hear what aviation machinist first class Harry Brooks has to say about his experience.
Good morning. My name is Brian Powers and I'm an interviewer for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. And today we are here in Cincinnati, Ohio on August 16th, 2013. And today we're going to be speaking with Harry F. Brooks. Mr. Brooks, thanks for doing this interview.
It's my pleasure.
Notice that the individual conducting the interview gives his name and the name of the project before starting the interview. He also provides the date and the location and the name of the interviewee or subject. These are important details because, like with all types of research, oral history interviews must be cited. This historian knows that providing detailed information about the interview is helpful for future researchers.
Well, usually we like to start out in these interviews and ask you, where were you born?
All right. I was born in Warren, Ohio, but there is a tale connected with that. My father worked for a railroad in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My mother was a cook in a boarding house at a small town south of there known as Pine Grove Furnace. My father decided that his fortune lay in California, so he and a friend got on the train and headed toward California. They got as far as Warren, Ohio, and ran out of money. So they decided to get off and work in the steel mill and the railroads and to get some more money. But that never came out to anything. He stayed there. He called my mother up. She came out. They got married, and I was born in Warren, Ohio. Otherwise, I would have been born in California.
Right.
You can tell from the very first question, where were you born, that Mr. Brooks is a storyteller. He's going to be a great subject in terms of providing context and nuance about service in the Navy during World War II, especially a specialized unit like Fleet Air Photographic Squadron 1. Here is a list of the types of questions you might consider taking notes about while you listen to an oral history interview. Think about these as you browse Harry Brooks's interview later, and as we take a look at the next source. Another source that Harold Fawcett's biographers used extensively was a collection of oral histories from his squadron. This collection was also found in the Cincinnati Public Library. Note that here all we have is the published transcript, no videos or audio. Nevertheless, these memories transcribed by Fawcett or someone speaking to him help fill in a great deal of detail on his experiences at Pearl Harbor. The chances of finding an oral history from your own veteran might be slim. But remember, you can still extract useful details from interviews with members of the same unit, or veterans who served in the same theater of war, or who shared other common circumstances with your vet. Maybe you want to use information from an oral history interview in your biography. You'll need to properly cite the interview. Baylor University's Institute for Oral History created a good example of how to cite these types of interviews. Make sure you discuss these types of special citations with your teacher or one of the researchers on our project. Let's take a look at ways you might locate oral history collections for your veterans. If we go to the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project and click on Explore the Collections, we discover Serving Our Voices. This is a curated page of oral history interviews which have been organized by themes and by era of service. Oral history interviews with veterans is just one type of information here. Let's take a look at what type of interviews are available. If you are working on a World War II veteran, you'll see that you can select World War II and view a list of what they have. Maybe you would like to obtain information not on a specific veteran, but about different types of experiences during wartime. Try looking at the interviews organized by theme. Perhaps your veteran left the military and was able to get a college education because they took advantage of the GI Bill. This themed section provides some basic background on the GI Bill, plus interviews from 15 veterans from different conflicts who utilized the GI Bill as a way to advance their education. Oral histories are just one more tool in the researcher's toolkit of resources. We hope you have an opportunity to view a portion of at least one interview from a veteran who served during the same conflict as your assigned veteran. These interviews are a great way to get a flavor for the soldiers, sailors, nurses, and other service people who led our nation through times of war.